most important election in this country's history was 2008. And we have paid and will continue to pay the price for losing that election for years to come, because that is the election that brought us Barack Hussein Obama.
Jesse Kelly, right there. Want to go right to Lee Smith, author of the new book, Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Lee, good to talk to you, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It might pain some people out there that Jesse Kelly is 100% right. Certainly on that assessment about Barack Obama.
What is your case for how Barack Obama is one of our worst presidents ever? Where do you begin?
A lot of the things that we're seeing now, a lot of the things that we've seen over the last 8 years of what I do in Disappearing the President, I identify that this multi-pronged and ongoing campaign targeting Donald Trump, his aides and supporters, these all started with Barack Obama. We're talking about the censorship campaign. We're talking about surveillance. We're talking about election interference. And also we're talking about political violence, too. All of these things started with Barack Obama. But look, even before then, there's something that went unnoticed by most people unless they follow foreign policy closely, especially the Middle East. And as I do, I'm a Middle East analyst, and one of the most really just freakishly bizarre things was when Obama pushed the nuclear deal with Iran. And this was misrepresented at the time, not surprisingly, by the media. But this was never designed to stop Iran from getting a bomb. This was putting Iran's nuclear weapons program under the protection of an agreement with the United States of America, right? What it did, it legalized the nuclear weapons program of a terrorist state that has been killing Americans since 1978. So once you stick with that, and people have been asking me for a long time, I don't get it. Why would he want to give Iran the bomb? Why would he do it? I think we have a much clearer answer now in 2024 when we see how he used the intelligence agencies against his political opponents, including Donald Trump, especially Donald Trump. I think we have a much better idea who Barack Obama is and what this administration was really about. There's nothing like it in American history. Certainly, we've had problems with domestic surveillance. We've had, presidents who were Richard Nixon, who abused different aspects of their executive authority. But Barack Obama is absolutely 100% outside of the American tradition. And this is one of the profound and destructive ironies of Barack Obama, the man who's one of whose catchphrases was, "That's not who we are as Americans." But remember, the purpose of that catchphrase was to distinguish people who followed Barack Obama from everyone else. Everyone else was not really truly American. Remember, this is what he did with Donald Trump, saying that Donald Trump had been compromised by Vladimir Putin. So, yeah, that's my case for why Obama is not just the worst American president, but certainly the most destructive and also the most un-American of American presidents.
All right, give me another example. Give me another specific example of how he weaponized the government against political enemies.
Well, it's very important to understand, right after Russiagate started to break in 2017, one of the big revelations was that the Hillary Clinton campaign paid for this dubious dossier written by this FBI informant, Christopher Steele. But the really important thing to remember, the crucial thing to keep in mind is all of this was done not by the Clinton campaign. It was Obama's spy chiefs, right? James Comey and John Brennan especially. And we know that Obama was tipped off no later than August 2016 about what was going on here with these rumors about Trump and Russia. And Obama could have pulled this back at any time. He knew that the FBI was investigating Trump based on these garbage rumors, based on a smear campaign invented by Clinton World. He could have pulled it back and said, no, come on, guys, get serious. to investigate a presidential campaign. This is a scandal waiting to happen. And besides, no one believes this garbage about Trump and Russia. So that right there is pretty clear evidence that we're talking about an American far outside the American mold.
What is the Barack Obama worldview that led him down this path, you say?
The Barack Obama worldview is something that we see in faculty lounges across America, right? That this is, that America is a bad place. America is fundamentally flawed and America is fundamentally evil. You know, we can spend a lot of time talking about the hypocrisy of that. Oh, but don't you understand? You have the freedom to criticize America from inside your faculty lounge here and make a good living here. It doesn't matter. This is the worldview. It's an anti-American worldview. It's the idea that America is poison at its very source, right? It's the 1619 worldview. So this is the worldview that we've seen becoming more and more powerful. And of course, this was the worldview dominating the Biden administration and virtually all of its moves, whether it's in foreign policy, whether it was going around and promoting the LGBT agenda and throwing military personnel out of the Pentagon because they were accused of being white supremacist or Christian nationalist. So that's Obama's worldview. I know it's very strange for people that someone who believes what they believe in faculty lounges in Boston and Palo Alto, that's really what motivated him. But again, that's exactly what it is. One of them was elected president of the United States, and that was Barack Obama.
Yeah. Amazing. What's a policy you would point to in his 8 years that you thought was most destructive?
Well, again, I think that the Iran nuclear deal is absolutely insane, right? This was a way. Again, the idea. The United States the United States has always been against nuclear proliferation, even with our allies, right? When Taiwan wanted to develop a nuclear weapons program, we were dead set against it. This is the history of the United States with nuclear proliferation. We're always against it. We were against it when the Israelis did it, and the Israelis are very close to us now. We were against it when the Brits did it half a century ago. But all of a sudden, when a terror state wants to push forward on its nuclear weapons program, Barack Obama says, yeah, that's okay. You can't stop the knowledge. You can't bomb away the knowledge. So let's just legalize the program, put certain restrictions on now, and over time these restrictions will sunset. That's why they're called sunset clauses. And at the end of that period, the Iranians will have a fully legitimate industrial scale nuclear weapons program. So that, to me, again, as someone who looks closely at foreign policy as well as domestic policy, and how these two aspects of a White House's ethos reflect each other, that to me is the single most important policy to look at. Why would you jeopardize and risk American interests like that by making this deal with this clearly, patently anti-American regime? And again, I think that we have to see that partnership with an anti-American regime reflects the prerogatives and priorities of an anti-American president, just who Barack Obama was.
What aspect of Barack Obama do you think Trump was the greatest rebuke of, with either what Trump has done or said or what the American people voted Trump for?
Well, I mean, I think the idea of making America great again. Look, in a sense, that's a challenge to Obama's legacy. If Obama was the one, if Obama needs to be, if America needs to be made great again, who ran America into the ground? Well, that was Barack Obama. So I think that as a whole, Trump's presidency, his candidacy, represented a rebuke of Obama. I think something else that we need to look at, and again, talking about Obama outside the American grain, it's something I talk about in Disappearing the President. It's something I try to remind people of as much as possible. The last president to stay in Washington, D.C., was Woodrow Wilson a century ago. Wilson couldn't leave the nation's capital because he had a debilitating stroke midway through his second term. He couldn't be moved. Barack Obama announced at the beginning of his second term that he was going to stay in Washington. Now, the reason that presidents leave Washington is because none of them have ever wanted to leave the impression that somehow they're interfering in the clear transfer of executive authority from one president to another. And nonetheless, Barack Obama has stayed in Washington, D.C. since 2016. Remember, after our election several weeks ago, Barack Obama released a statement about the election. Again, another first for Barack Obama. No president, no former president has ever released what was effectively a concession speech. Why did Barack Obama do it? Again, to let people know that he is still actively involved in shaping the destiny of the nation. This is
Wow.
This is un-American.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting. And I wonder what role he'll have. And maybe I'll end that. We got about 2 minutes, but where like George W. Bush doesn't have a place in this Republican Party anymore, right? For instance. Right. Do you think the Democrats will rebuke Obama and push him aside and move forward in a different direction? Or will he continue to have control over the party?
I think this will be an interesting struggle. Look, the loss is his, right? It was Kamala Harris is Barack Obama's candidate, has been since 2019. He wanted her for 2020, right? But the Democratic Party voters turned her down. I think one important thing we're going to see in this struggle, this is not like when Michael Dukakis lost in 1988 and the Democrats went back to the drawing board and that's when they came up with Bill Clinton. Wow, Democratic Leadership Council, we're going to move to the center and come up with ideas that Americans like. I think it's going to be very hard for them to do this because the radicalism is baked into the educational system, right? They are producing and reproducing those ideas not only now in colleges, but as we see with this insanely destructive and vicious trans agenda, they're trying to reproduce these ideas in high school as well. So it's going to be very hard for them to shake a lot of their, even a lot of their most insane ideas.
Yeah, well, we'll have to shake them ourselves and win. Lee Smith, the book is Disappearing the President, Trump, Truth Social, and the Fight for the Republic. Lee, thanks for leading that fight. Grateful for you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on again.